The Waltons was a show based on Earl Hammer Jr.'s book Spencer's Mountain.
They seemed like the perfect family on screen, full of love, laughter, and life in the Blue Ridge Mountains. But hidden beneath those warm smiles and peaceful moments are small details that slipped through the cracks. The Waltons is remembered for its heart, yet it's also home to 13 surprising bloopers that continue to catch the attention of sharp-eyed fans. From wardrobe mix-ups to curious continuity errors, these little slip-ups offer a fun, unexpected side to the classic series. How many have you spotted? Let's take a closer look and see what you might have missed. The role Fonda refused. When CBS was preparing The Waltons, the network wanted to secure a major star to help anchor the show and draw in viewers. One of their top choices for the role of John Walton was legendary actor Henry Fonda. At the time, Fonda was admired for his work in roles that reflected similar values and settings, including his part in Spencer's Mountain, which had connections to the original story behind. The Waltons. CBS believed that casting him would give the series added prestige and appeal. Henry Fonda was approached and given the opportunity to consider the role. He reviewed the pilot episode and gave it serious thought. However, in the end, he decided not to take the part. Fonda's reasoning was thoughtful and showed his understanding of what made the show special. He explained that there was no star in the family. It was the family itself that made it what it was. Fonda recognized that the strength of the series came from the collective dynamic of the Walton family, not from any individual character. This revelation by Fonda was indeed hauntingly proven later. Indeed, if Fonda felt the family was the real star of the show, it was that which the audience eventually came to love the most about the Waltons. The touching family depiction which became the hallmark of the show, one in which no one actor overshadowed the rest. And Fonda's refusal to join the project was just what the show needed to sustain that balance. No, CBS did not land Henry Fonda for John Walton's role, but they did manage to find the perfect actor in Ralph Waite, who, in his performance, would create a whole new finish. Goodman was made by it as it somehow did not spoil the series, but, in fact, helped preserve the focus on the family as a whole. He quotes as a reminder that sometimes what a show really needs isn't star power, but authentic connections between its characters. If you think that the casting twist was surprising, wait until you spot what slipped through in the next scene. Strange scenes. In The Waltons, several memorable goofs and unusual moments occurred that fans still talk about today. One such instance happened in the Season 2 episode titled The Sinner. During a barn fire scene where the Waltons and Yancey try to put out the flames, Grandpa makes a slip. He accidentally calls Erin by the real name of the actress portraying her, saying Mary Elizabeth instead of her character's name. It's a small but noticeable break that sharp-eyed viewers can catch. Another strange moment appears in The Honeymoon, also from Season 2. As John and Olivia prepare for their long-awaited honeymoon, there's a scene where David W. Harper, who plays Jim Bob, misses his cue. Instead of exiting the scene smoothly, he looks toward the camera and mouths something, as if asking for guidance, before hurriedly running out of the shot. Similarly, Marie Earle, playing Maud Gormley, was caught mouthing several of her lines, an error that fans can spot if they watch closely. Even the Waltons had their share of wardrobe malfunctions. For instance, in the Season 4 episode The Secret, Elizabeth wears a red sweater as she sits with Jim Bob. However, when she goes inside to chat with Grandma and her mum, the sweater is no longer there, only to reappear when she's heading back outdoors. Such continuity also fails to happen in The Long Night from Season 5, where Grandpa starts the trip to the hospital in dark clothing under his overalls, but instantly switches to a blue and white checkered shirt on the return trip. Some of the special Waltons films have created even more historical continuity contradictions. The Season 6 episode, The Anniversary, which was set in 1940, illustrated a moment in time when John and Olivia celebrated their 25-year wedding anniversary. But in a movie entitled A Walton's Easter, which took place in 1969, the same John and Olivia are seen celebrating their 40th anniversary when they should actually have been celebrating their 54th. There is also a car ownership mix-up in the Season 9 episode, The Whirlwind. Johnsy says he bought his car in San Francisco, but the movie Mother's Day on Walton's Mountain contradicts this, as it shows he bought it at Harry's Used Cars, Deadeye Gulch, Nevada. Genetics gone TV style. One of the interesting details fans have pointed out about the Waltons is the unlikely genetics displayed by the Walton children. John and Olivia Walton, the parents on the show, both have light blue eyes, which is also true of Olivia's aunt and uncle, as well as both of John's parents. With that family background, it would seem natural for their children to inherit lighter eye colors too. However, what makes this surprising is that all three of the children have dark brown eyes, a result that is highly improbable given the genetic traits shown by the parents and grandparents. Eye color inheritance typically follows a pattern where two blue-eyed parents would almost always have blue-eyed children. The fact that the Walton children defy this expectation stands out to those familiar with basic genetics. To think that a pair of blue-eyed parents could ever have children with dark brown eyes would be very rare. The general consensus is that, in fact, such an occurrence would be less than 1% feasible in our world. This decidedly different fact from the real world reinforces the idea that, when it came to the casting and appearances of the characters, the show would perhaps make a scientific course deviation or compromise on realism concerning family traits. Ultimately, the unanticipated eye color of the Walton children is a small example of artistic license used by the show creators. Although improbably genetic, this characteristic did not detract from the warmth and genuineness of the family interplay that endeared the Waltons to its audience. Fans generally accept such quirks as one of the many little aspects of television storytelling. Reckless the dog. Reckless the dog was a beloved part of the Waltons, appearing in many episodes and becoming part of the Walton family's daily life. Viewers grew attached to Reckless as the loyal companion who often appeared alongside the children and adults in various heartwarming scenes. The dog's presence added to the wholesome and down-to-earth charm that defined the series. However, there was a surprising inconsistency regarding Reckless that attentive fans eventually noticed. Throughout most episodes, Reckless is consistently referred to as him, establishing that the dog was intended to be male. This detail seemed straightforward and was reinforced by the way the characters addressed and spoke about their pet. What is even stranger in all this is that Reckless suddenly appears to be pregnant later, just as such a thing does happen in the next episode. This entire point of the story then flatly contradicted that Reckless had been shown before as a male dog. This contradiction leaves bewildered fans and moves straight into one of those odd little oversights that appear while rewatching the series. This is an example of the occasional continuity errors that found their way into the Waltons, though the general place of the program. While the dog did not change anything for the viewers in their love for Reckless, even the great classics do not escape such little moments of forgetfulness concerning their characters, be they canine or not. The voice behind every episode. One of the most interesting facts about the Waltons is that its creator and writer, Earl Hamner Jr., appeared in every single episode, though not in a way most viewers would immediately notice. His contribution came through his voice as he provided the narration for the show. Earl Hamner was the voice of John Boy as a grown man, offering reflections at the beginning and end of episodes that framed the story and added emotional depth. This voiceover role made Earl Hamner the show's most frequent cameo, as his presence was felt in all episodes, even if his face was not seen. His warm, reflective tone became a signature part of the show's style, helping to convey John Boy's thoughts and memories as he looked back on his family's life in rural Virginia. Fans came to recognize this familiar voice as part of what made the series so heartfelt and authentic. Earl Hamner, with voice and mien, appeared at least once in the long-running series. He personally showed up for the episode in which Maggie Mackenzie is at the beach with John Boy. He appears as Maggie's husband in a flashback scene. We see the two dancing together, offering the fans of the series an infrequent glimpse of the storyteller behind their cherished tales. The duality of Earl Hamner's role as a writer behind the scenes and the single visual cameo represents how dear the Waltons were to him. His role extended from writing to bring in a voice and an image, thus underpinning the nostalgic and personal atmosphere, which made the series distinguished from its time among family dramas. The Walton House. The Walton House was more than just a set. It became an iconic symbol of the series and appeared in the opening and closing of every episode. The design of the house wasn't random. It was modeled to resemble the author of the original book's boyhood home, helping to reinforce the authenticity of the show's setting in rural Virginia. Its simple, familiar appearance gave viewers a sense of comfort and belonging, as it represented the heart of the Walton family's life. Although the house looked realistic on screen, filming it was far from simple. All exterior scenes were shot on the backlot of Warner Brothers Studios in Burbank, California. The house was largely a facade. The front facade was complete, and the back was mostly open. There weren't many usable spaces inside the structure, and in fact, the back porch led not into the house, but into a makeup room for the cast. It wasn't the completed second story, often seen in wide shots, that those scenes were filmed in. Whereas John Boy's now famous bedroom has no real interior space corresponding to it, the very few lights connected to a wooden platform were linked only through ladders. Also, every inside scene that implied a family living in the house was filmed in a different identified place. Seemed very minimal outside but well-developed inside to accommodate cameras and crew. Beyond the Waltons, this house has a legacy. After the series finished, the building remained in the Warner Brothers lot and became part of television history. When it was burned down because of arson, it was renovated and later used for another favorite, Gilmore Girls. It was given some modern updates, and the well-known home became the Dragonfly Inn, which is an important place in the lives of Lorelai and Sookie. Thus, the Walton House lives on, not just in memories of its fans, but it is now also part of Hollywood's working landscape. The Walton House had its mysteries, but what's coming next takes things to a different level entirely. The Waltons beat the odds. When the Waltons first came to CBS, the show arrived at a time when the network wasn't particularly supportive of rural-themed programming. CBS was undergoing what became known as the Rural Purge, a deliberate effort to cancel shows that centered around simple country families and rural life. The network was trying to modernize its image and appeal to a younger, more urban audience. Because of this, there wasn't much confidence that a show like The Waltons would succeed. Against these odds, The Waltons became a remarkable success story. The show was one of the only shows to survive this change, defying the network's expectations. Audiences quickly connected with the wholesome, loving dynamic of the Walton family, and the series became one of the top hits on television. Its success proved that viewers still craved stories about family values and close-knit communities, even during a time when networks were shifting toward edgier, more urban programming. The Waltons not only captured a slot on CBS, but also opened opportunities for other such programs. The popularity of the series brought in shows like Little House on the Prairie, which mimicked the formula for telling family-centered stories that happened in the plains of America. As such, the Waltons confirmed that there were still very large audiences available for these kinds of sentimental, old-fashioned dramas, trends notwithstanding. For it reminds audiences that sometimes network executives totally underestimate the power of simple human stories. Gambled in a time of sweeping programming changes, it emerged as a defining success for CBS in the 1970s. Strength, love, and resilience. The now familiar story that paved the way for the capture of audience hearts ensured the program's place in television history. The show that satisfied Congress. The creation of the Waltons wasn't just the result of a network's programming decision. It was influenced by broader concerns about television's moral direction at the time. Actress Cami Cotler, who played Elizabeth Walton, revealed in an interview with the Los Angeles Times that the wholesome nature of the show was partly a response to political pressure. According to Cotler, congressional hearings had been questioning the moral direction of television, leading CBS to look for content that would address these concerns. The Walton family, with its strong values, close bonds, and respectful relationships, was seen as the perfect answer to these criticisms. CBS recognized that a show like The Waltons could serve as evidence that the network was committed to providing morally upright programming. This helped the network present itself in a more positive light during a time of public scrutiny and government questioning. The reason The Waltons had very timely characteristics in December was to allow CBS a series representative of the American fabric. The trials and love during the family Great Depression brought home that audience and served as the antithesis of some of the more controversial material and boundary-pushing content of the day. Its existence and success could somewhat relieve concerns raised in the congressional hearings. Thus, The Waltons was more than a form of entertainment, but rather a greater cultural political discussion about what sort of stories should be told on television. That is how CBS was favoring congressional expectations, and later produced one of the most loved family dramas in America's television history. That wholesome storytelling could still catch and inspire a wide audience. A role won through struggle. Michael Learned, who became famous for playing Olivia Walton, faced personal struggles even before joining the Waltons. During her audition for the role, she was battling alcoholism. In fact, she had a hidden bottle of liquor in her pocket during the audition. It's unclear whether this influenced the casting decision, but despite the circumstances, Michael earned the role that would define much of her acting career. Learned's battle with alcoholism continued during her time on the show, but she maintained her professionalism and delivered the heartfelt performances that made Olivia Walton a beloved character. Over time, she eventually reached sobriety, though not until much later in life, at age 78. Her journey reflected the strength and resilience that she often brought to the role on screen, even as she faced personal challenges behind the scenes. Michael Learned's decision to leave the Waltons came by the end of its 6th season. The demanding role and her own reasons had her thinking of leaving it all. However, she was persuaded to stay on for a while longer in a smaller capacity, which would allow her to scale down her workload while still being a part of the production, much to the delight of its loyal viewers. Michael Learned's experience from working in the Waltons is a reminder that sometimes there is something completely opposite reality, hidden from even the nicest TV drama images. Even though she faced a large number of personal problems, she created a character who was strong, kind, and morally sound. The balance that she was able to strike between taking on such challenges and continuing in the role went on to make a significant mark in both the series and its fans. Heartbreak behind the Waltons. The Waltons cast faced several real-life health challenges and losses during and after the show's production. One of the most significant incidents involved Ellen Corby, who played Grandma Esther. Ellen suffered a real-life stroke while working on the show. Her husband found her passed out on set and sought immediate medical help. The production team wrote her absence into the storyline, allowing her to recover while keeping the show's continuity intact. Ellen eventually returned to the series and continued acting until she passed away at age 87 on April 14, 1999. Another major loss for the cast and fans came with the passing of Will Geer, who portrayed Grandpa Zeb Walton. Will played the role for 6 seasons and was recognized for his work with an Emmy Award for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Drama Series. He died of respiratory failure on April 22, 1978, at age 76. He allegedly kept up his love of the arts until the end, singing songs and reciting poems on his deathbed. Following his passing, the show respectfully wrote his character out as well. The fear of health was no exception for the older cast. Mary Elizabeth McDonough, who played Erin in the series, had her own struggles during her years on the show. She said she felt pressured to become the pretty one, leading her to develop an ulcer from unhealthy dieting. "I didn't think I was ugly," Elizabeth shared, "but they would whisper to me that I was the pretty one. That wasn't comforting. It felt like something that could hurt other people's feelings." She went on to explain the pressure that came with it. "There was this idea that since I was the pretty one, that was my only value. And with that came expectations, to be skinny, to wear makeup, to fit this image that was suddenly put on me. I didn't feel comfortable with it at all. It certainly wasn't how I saw myself," she added. She tried to hide the symptoms from her fellow cast members, but John Ritter, who played Reverend Matthew, could tell that something was wrong. He encouraged her to begin journaling, which greatly improved her mental and physical health. These incidents remind the audience that behind the curtain of the Waltons, the actors were living their own human stories, contrary to the idealized family they portrayed. The cast supported each other through illnesses, losses, and personal challenges, much like the real family they once cast into life. Their strength and struggle kept the show real, even in turbulent times. The cast's next journey. After The Waltons ended, many of its cast members continued to find success in their personal and professional lives. Michael Learned, who played Olivia Walton, kept working steadily. She appeared in several well-known daytime dramas, including All My Children, One Life to Live, General Hospital, and even made an appearance on Scrubs. Michael's talent and versatility allowed her to transition easily into other roles after leaving the beloved family drama. Other cast members followed their own unique paths. John Walmsley, who played Jason Walton, balanced acting with his musical talents. In addition to his various acting roles, he voiced Christopher Robin in the Winnie the Pooh movies and later focused on his successful career as a musician and songwriter. Meanwhile, Judy Norton, known for playing Mary Ellen, made headlines when she posed for Playboy, but eventually stepped away from the spotlight. She became active in sports like horse jumping, skydiving, skiing, and tennis, and she now runs a YouTube channel where she reflects on old Waltons episodes. Eric Scott, known for his role as Ben Walton, did not find his career in acting alone, as he has worked as a businessman, owning a delivery service known as Chase Messengers. David Harper, who played Jim Bob, had a small role in the comedy Fletch in 1985 after The Waltons, and then he retired. He is said to be writing an autobiography about his life and would maybe rejoin the limelight. The paths were so different for the numerous cast members of the show as they made their own mark after the end of the show. Other stars still active in their careers are Richard Thomas, who played John Boy, who left after the 5th season but continued working in television and film. He starred in the 1979 miniseries Roots, NCIS, New Orleans, The Americans, and participated in the latest Waltons revival. Ralph Waite, who played John Walton, overcame personal struggles surrounding his alcohol problem and went on to have a career that included roles in Little House on the Prairie and many others. He even ran for Congress 3 times before dying in 2014 at age 85. These examples show how the spirits of the Walton cast have carried into another chapter of their lives. When time got twisted, the Waltons aimed to authentically depict life in Depression-era rural Virginia, but it wasn't immune to historical inaccuracies. A recurring issue involved period posters and signage. In particular, the National Recovery Administration (NRA) posters seen on the show contained spelling mistakes that wouldn't have appeared at the time. For example, in the 1973 episode The Deed, the word forward appears instead of forward, and in The Bequest from the same year, it is again misspelled. These small errors stood out given the show's effort to create a realistic backdrop. Another significant time period slip comes from the episode The Burnout, which centers on a fire caused by faulty wiring. The problem is that this story is set in the 1930s, before TVA wires were even prevalent in Schuyler, Virginia, where the Waltons lived. In fact, electrical wiring from the Tennessee Valley Authority wouldn't have reached that region until 1937. This made the premise of the episode historically inaccurate, though likely unnoticed by most viewers at the time. Fashion choices on the Waltons also reflected modern influences rather than staying true to the era. As the show progressed into later seasons, characters began sporting 1970s feathered hair and long sideburns, despite their stories being set in the 1940s. This blending of contemporary styles with a period setting created subtle but noticeable anachronisms that clashed with the show's intended time frame. The character pairings in the show were also infected by the same inconsistencies. A curious detail is that John Boy and Jason appear to be in the same school class in several episodes, even though they were shown earlier with separate teachers. For example, Miss Hunter taught John Boy, Jason, Ben, and Elizabeth at different times, so how could that have happened in their schooling timeline? These lapses and the occasional time period trip-ups have been very sharply spotted over the years by keen fans. Occasionally have props and set decorations contributed to the historical differences as well. Among the things sharp-eyed viewers found were modern objects like glass jars with logos or packaging designs that would have been non-existent during the Great Depression. These tiny details in the background are overlooked, yet gain in importance to the fan interested in the effort to reenact the 1930s. For these moments remind us, even with a great deal of production, a few modern touches snuck into this world of the Waltons. Hold that thought. The next bit of Waltons trivia is something fans didn't see coming. A date beyond the script. The on-screen chemistry between John Walton and Olivia Walton was one of the cornerstones of the Waltons. The deep connection and affection shared by the characters felt natural to viewers, making them one of television's most beloved couples. This chemistry wasn't just good acting. It reflected the genuine camaraderie between Michael Lernneed and Ralph Waite, the actors who portrayed Olivia and John. Their bond helped bring authenticity to their roles as husband and wife. Michael and Ralph enjoyed working together so much that they wondered if their connection might extend beyond the screen. They thought their connection may reach beyond the screen, leading them to go on a date in real life. Fans who admired their on-screen partnership might have hoped that this affection would translate into a real romance between the two stars. The idea of their bond evolving into something more was both exciting and heartwarming to longtime viewers. It added an extra layer of intrigue to their performances, knowing there was genuine affection behind the scenes. Even if their date didn't lead to a romance, it showed just how close their connection truly was. However, their off-screen relationship didn't go further. After just a single date, Michael and Ralph decided not to pursue a romantic relationship. Despite this brief exploration of something beyond friendship, they remained close colleagues and continued to deliver the strong, believable performances that made the Waltons' marriage feel so real and heartfelt to viewers. Their ability to separate personal feelings from professional responsibilities spoke volumes about their dedication to the craft. It also ensured that their on-screen chemistry remained undisturbed, preserving the emotional continuity fans had come to cherish. Over time, their friendship only deepened, becoming a foundation that supported the heart of the series. The show reaches a new height in this esteem, not the ability to keep professionalism and respect, even after a mutual decision to no longer date. It kept the integrity of their professional relationship on point, so that the dynamics that made John and Olivia interesting were still available, with the fuzzy edges so beloved by fans. This chapter recounts a long personal page from the history of one of the most famous couples in television. It's a reminder that real-life connections, even when they don't turn romantic, can deeply enrich on-screen storytelling. Fans sensed the authenticity behind every glance, conversation, and quiet moment between the two characters. In the end, their shared history became part of what made John and Olivia's relationship feel so timeless and true. Their decision to prioritize their friendship and working relationship ultimately strengthened the show's dynamic. By setting clear boundaries and maintaining mutual respect, Michael and Ralph were able to channel their real-life connection into performances that felt emotionally honest, adding another layer of depth to the enduring legacy of the Waltons. This professional maturity allowed them to keep their characters' love story intact, without letting personal matters interfere. It also set a tone of trust and collaboration on set, which likely contributed to the warm, family-like atmosphere the show is known for. In many ways, their ability to navigate complex emotions off-screen mirrored the grace and care they brought to their roles on screen. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed spotting these fun Waltons bloopers, give this video a like, leave a comment below with your favorite goof, and subscribe for more classic TV moments. Don't forget to click on the next video on your screen. There's plenty more to discover.